So, members of the Planning Committee, welcome to this meeting of Komiti Whakariti Mahiri, the Planning Committee of Auckland Council, and it is the 4th of November. I welcome the Mayor, the councillors, the independent statutory board members, and members of the public who might be watching this streaming as well. And first of all, members, I will go to our governance advisor, Kalinda Iswa, for the roll call. Kalinda, would you please take the roll?
Morena, everyone. I'm checking the roll call now. Councillor Bartley. Councillor Casey.
Morena, Kalinda.
Sorry, Kalinda, I'm present now.
Thank you, Josephine. Councillor Cashmore.
Kia ora.
Councillor Collins.
Kia ora, Kalinda. Kia ora, Chair.
Councillor Coombe.
Morena.
Councillor Cooper.
Kia ora koutou katoa.
Councillor Dalton.
Morena, Kalinda.
Councillor Filipina. Councillor Fletcher.
Good morning, Kalinda.
Mayor Goff.
Marie.
Councillor Henderson.
Good morning, everybody.
Councillor Mulholland.
Good morning.
Councillor Newman.
Good morning, Kalinda.
Councillor Sayers.
Thank you, Kalinda.
Councillor Simpson.
Morning, everyone.
Councillor Stewart.
Good morning.
MSB Chair Taipari.
Kia ora.
Councillor Walker.
Morning.
Councillor Watson.
Hi there, Kalinda.
Member Wilson.
Kia ora.
And Councillor Young.
Good morning, 大家早.
Good morning, everyone. Just a quick reminder about the Skype protocols. If you can please only unmute when you are speaking. All questions go through the chair, and please only use the chat bar function to indicate whether you would like to ask a question or to speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kalinda. Thanks, members. Do acknowledge the attendance of the Independent Māori Statutory Board member David Taipari in place of member Tau Henare today. Welcome, David. Members, are there any other apologies? I have in advance member Henare and Councillor Hills for absence, and also Independent Māori Statutory Board member Karen Wilson for early departure. Are there others? There being none, I will move accordingly. The motion's on the screen. Do I have a second, please?
Simpson, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson. The second is there. All those in favour say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Contrary, no. And that motion is carried. Thank you, members. Members, at this time, I'd like to invite the Mayor to acknowledge the recent passing of Dame Kath Tizard, and pay tribute to the former Mayor of Auckland City Council. Mayor Goff.
Kia ora tātou, tēnei te mihi nui kia koutou, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing this opportunity. Dame Kath was probably known to some of you. I'd known her for quite a long time. Particularly relevant in terms of Auckland Council because she was a long-standing councillor, first elected in 1971, and then she became mayor in 1983 and won the next two elections and stood down shortly after winning the third time to become the first woman Governor-General of New Zealand, and she was, of course, the first woman mayor of a large metro and a first woman mayor of Auckland City. Dame Kath was, I think, an outstanding person. She was not only a trailblazer in terms of, breaking that glass ceiling for women, but the way she went about her job was really impressive. She said that she wanted to be known for three things: that she was sensible, she was cheerful, and she didn't hold grudges. And I thought all three of those characteristics are pretty good role models for somebody in public life. But she led from the front. She worked collaboratively. She was elected initially, at least, as a Labour mayor, but she worked with people across council, and she worked with pretty much a dominant CNR council on Auckland City in those days. But still, because of the way she worked with other people and by force of personality, managed to get things done. Should be remembered, I think, in particular for two achievements on council. One was the Aotea Centre. And boy, if you think that we have problems today with getting agreement around some things, go back and read some of the history about the Aotea Centre. And it was, the cost. The cost ended up being 5 or 6 times what it was originally anticipated. There were legal action from Hawkins, that were the original contractors. There was deep political division within council. But at the end of the day, the building was completed, and now it's an asset for the city. And we owe a lot to Dame Kath for that. Secondly, she was also a key figure in helping win the hosting rights for Auckland for the Games. And I don't know whether many of you remember that, but it was a very successful event for Auckland and very well run. But I'll remember her as a person who was charming, was personable, was intelligent, held her values very strongly, and made a great contribution for her city, for the community, and for the country as a whole, particularly in her role as Governor General. So perhaps, Mr. Chair, if there may be, I think Councillor Fletcher had indicated that she'd like to say a few words, and then at the end of that, if we have a minute's silence for our former mayor and former Governor General, Kath, moi mai, haere atura. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Goff. I'll hand now to Councillor Fletcher, and then we will have a moment's silence to follow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I feel fortunate to be able to speak at this time. Kath was vivacious, she was progressive, and she was distinctly human. I found her to be a wonderful confidant, and the Mayor has spoken most eloquently of those things that Kath was to the forefront of. But one of the things that's not so well known is that she really understood the importance of trade. She played a key role in the establishment of Guangzhou as our sister city. She led the first trade mission up, and my late father was actually on that trade mission, and he regaled us with many stories. And I later reminded her she did like to drink gin, as did he, and they had an awful lot of fun. But out of that came some really significant opportunities for Auckland, that as a small, as a small country, as the largest city at the bottom of the world, we have to trade, and she understood that. So she was imbued with a great amount of common sense. She was not captured by the zealots. She also knew that she had to take people with her. I just want to close on reflecting on the late Phil Warren, who was a close friend of mine. He had, following the death of Harold Goodman, served as deputy mayor to her. He then went on to chair the regional council. But he said she's just a great all-rounder. I'd like to give my most sincere condolences to Kath's family, in particular Judith, who entered Parliament at the same time as myself. Auckland is so much the better for Kath's contribution, and it's with real sadness, I think, we're all feeling her passing today.
Thank you, Councillor Fletcher. I'll now pass back to the Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, people have asked me about are we doing anything to acknowledge Dame Kath. Kath, in her inimitable style, set out very clearly what she would like to have happen on her passing. and it's not a state funeral that she would have been entitled to. But she did suggest that there be some sort of concert, perhaps with Dame Kiritakanawa singing at it, because they were very close in the work that they did around the Aotea Centre. Obviously, with COVID, that's not possible, but I have been in touch with Judith Tizard, who's representing the family, and once we're out of COVID, I think something in line with Kath's own wishes would be really appropriate. The government would be very supportive of that, and we would make available a suitable venue, either the Aotea Centre or the Old Town Hall, and that will be a way in which it'll be few speeches and a lot of entertainment, which is what Kath would have wanted. And that's something that we'll be following the family's wishes in what they would like to have happen in that regard. But for obvious reasons, that will need to await our moving out of the lockdown that we're currently under. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll pass back to you.
Well, that's great, Mayor. Thank you for looking into that for us. That would be a wonderful acknowledgement. Members, I think now if we could just take a moment's silence to reflect on the passing of Dame Kath Tizard, a truly wonderful woman. Let's reflect on her life in a moment's silence. Thank you, members.